Advertising is really difficult at the moment. Everything's very expensive, and traditional print advertising isn't having the same effect that it used to have. So the majority of my work is through online sources. So I've used Google AdWords before to get the website rolling, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. LinkedIn's been really good for meeting other business owners and getting special one-off commissions in. You don't wait to be approached, is the thing. Advertising, it's hit and miss, and as I say, spending money on something that's not going to pay you back is the biggest risk, and I've learned from that. I've lost a lot of money by paying out for printed adverts and had absolutely zero return from them. So now I try and find creative ways to get my message out there. So as I said, Facebook's great, you can keep everything up to date. So we have a business page, we have a group, and I have my personal page, and whenever I have something to talk about, it goes on all three, and I ask my friends and colleagues to share them further. You can leave it up to people to share it if they find it interesting, but there's no harm in saying to people, can you just share this link on your page for me? A long time ago, I did receive a £2,000 loan from the Prince's Trust to set up a garden design and sculpture business. Unfortunately, that business didn't work out. The £2,000 gave me enough of a start, though, to build a bit of stock, to go and do a few shows, and just find out that where I was going with that idea wasn't quite ready yet. It was also the inspiration that I needed to go to university and finish my education. I realised that if I was going to make a real go of it on my own, I needed the support of the college, the education side of it, so that I could confidently say what I was doing. So yeah, I had a small loan from them. Nowadays, the gallery helps finance it. You know, the work that I do is supported by the money I make from selling other people's work. My income at the moment doesn't come from the gallery sales. The gallery earns money to pay itself. So everything that the gallery sells goes back into running the gallery. I make my money from my commercial work and selling my own sculptures. So, as I said, first and foremost, I'm an artist, but I also own a gallery. The artwork is what I do for a living. So if my work doesn't sell, I don't get paid. Luckily, I've queued up enough work over the years that I have a steady stream of work on. Right now I have Bill Sykes and two dogs that I'm on with, a Spartan Warrior, a Soldier, a Wonder Woman statue, and a figure from Prototype, the computer game. They're all to do between now and the end of January. Oh, and I've got a female colonel, QA, Queen's Auxiliary Nurses. This woman's getting promoted, and they asked me if I'd create a statue for her, so I've got 6 to do by the end of January. That's quite a big workload, even for me, and I work very quickly. But that's my income over the next 2 months. Everything. Yeah, it's the hardest question to answer, I suppose. But yeah, you know, it can be anything. Mostly, I'm interested in pop culture, and I think traditional artwork has always been of interest to me. I was always more of a fan of the Renaissance painters than I was of the modern art painters. As I've got older, I've appreciated modern art more so because I realised how hard it is to create striking images when you're not trying to capture something that you've seen. Right. So you know, that interests me. I'm very interested in the moment in the whole steampunk revolution that's going on, and you know, when I say revolution, steampunk's been around for over 100 years. The time machine was steampunk. There have been Metropolis was steampunk. You know, this is something that really interests me. I like the idea of quality items for the home. You know, when the days when radios used to be made out of wood, and a cabinet maker would be employed to make the casing, and an electronics guy would be employed to do the gadgets. Now everything is disposable. Everything's made in factories, and there is more waste when they make a computer than there is product in a computer, and I can't understand how that works. And everyone, they buy a new computer, they throw the old one in the bin. there's nothing wrong with it. And it's like, I see those things and I want to give them a new life. I don't want to send them to India to go into a stockpile of rubbish and poison children. I want them to be reused, recycled, and I think that people are interested in that. People are more interested in having something that's going to last them forever than something that's they're going to throw away, than having a £500 TV that in 2 years' time is going to be outdated and they're going to skip it. I don't see the point to that, and I like to express that through artwork, through showing people. People come in and they go, oh, that's amazing, and here's my £500, and what they're buying off me I rescued out of their bin. You know, and it's that mentality. People see things and they see a value to it when we've finished recreating it, and that interests me. It really and inspires me to collect this junk and to turn it into something more, whether that's just a welded together sculpture or whether it's a functional item like a clock or a television set or a computer that we've retarted up. This is R2D2 fruit bowl, or a popcorn bowl, or whatever you want it to be. And this, I had some plastic domes that I rescued from somewhere. I remember Skip or something. And my friend Chris was in, and I was looking at it, and I was like, R2D2, can you make that for me? And he went, oh yeah, okay. So he cut all these panels out of it, and then he built all these in cardboard, and built these out of little balls and bottle caps, and then I made a 7-8 piece plaster mould of that, and then from the plaster mould we made all these bowls, and we made cake covers, and you know, the idea was to sort of make some tableware that was film inspired, and you know, we sold quite a few of these to start with. It's slowed down a bit now, but you know, they do that, people see something new, you know. But it was just to take it from a concept to a finished thing within a week, which is what we did, was brilliant. And I really enjoyed making that, and it was one of those things that was that inspired brainwave that you always have, and then you manage to turn it into something that really exists, and it's like, yeah, I'm really happy with that. When it comes to my sculptures, I've done so many of them, and generally what happens is the newest one I've done, that would be the one I'm most proud of. That's the one that I'm really happy with that. I couldn't have done a better piece. But that's because it's my latest one, and I get better with each one that I make. Though out of them, there's one that I could pick out, which was it was one of the most complex pieces that I did. So getting it to work was really difficult, and in the end, when I was finished with it, and the customer was over the moon, that was a good one. That was the Balrog from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, excuse me, and that's on the website. And I think sculpting wise, that took me 3 weeks over 6 month period, because I kept working on it, and then I can't deal with that anymore. I can't deal with it anymore. And getting the wings to work, these really thin wings made of clay, but to be suspended up above its head with no visible support was so hard. Absolute nightmare. And if someone asked me to make one again, I'd have to think twice about it, because it was so hard. Yeah, absolutely. It's not what I do, it's the person that I am, and it always has been. I've worked a lot of different jobs. I've worked crap jobs, I've had some good jobs. I once was a graphic designer, and I thought I've made it now. I'm getting paid £15-20 an hour for most jobs, £25 an hour for some jobs, and my stuff was in newspapers, but it was all advertising. And after a while there was no creativity to it. Once I'd made a certain bunch of adverts, all they ever wanted was me to move bits around those adverts, and I'm sat in front of my computer at home with what is a dream job, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. So I'd go and buy myself a bag of clay and do that, and mess about, and then I won't do any work. So this is me now for the rest of my life, one way or another. A day at the gallery, first thing is obviously come, open everything up, turn everything on, make a cup of coffee, fag, check my emails, try and get all that boring stuff out of the way to start with, so that I'm not thinking about it all day. I have my to-do lists, so it'd be responding to emails, checking Facebook for any appropriate messages from customers and what have you, and then start work as soon as I can. If I'm on a sculpting day like I am today, I'm downstairs listening for the bell on the door, and I get all the machines turned on. I have a pot of hot water on the go all the time for softening my wax, the radio on, and I just get my head down and I work. And then every time the doorbell rings, I come upstairs. Every time I hear someone walking around, I come upstairs. The phone rings about 15 times an hour. Generally, people trying to sell me things, people trying to get me to claim back my PPI. So I spend a lot of my day frustrated that I'm not able to get all the things done that I want to get done. Afternoons, quite often around this time, I stop working, have a bit of a clear up, come up here. If I haven't had any sales, I start doing my sales stuff so that it's not all left behind. I start, documenting what we've sold, updating websites on an afternoon as well, take pictures, all the sort of background filler work that's involved with the gallery. If you leave it used to be when I started, I'd be like, oh no, I'll do all that tomorrow, I'll have a day of it tomorrow, and then you start doing it and it's too much. You've got, I've only got 8 hours and I've got this and this to get done, so I do bits of everything every day. When I'm setting up exhibitions, it's harder because I have to stop my work and just focus on the gallery, and sometimes you'll be in the flow of what you're doing and I'm really getting somewhere, and I have to force myself to sort of no, I have to put it away, I have to forget about that for 3 days while I get this exhibition set up. And those are the really hard days, because all I want to do is work, all I want to do is sculpt, is be downstairs and working on these jobs I'm having. But I own a gallery and this has to be run as well, so it's a good a day of juggling bits and pieces of info. Start with, I work from home, kitchen table, like most people do, doing as much as I could at home, and then it starts getting too messy or you can't complete as many things as you'd like. So when I moved house, I had a garage, so I set my garage up as a little workshop, worked in there, had to drive with as we call it in the green, clay, so unfired clay statues, transfer them from Jenny Fields to Hornbeam Park to fire them, and that was it was always trouble. And then eventually I decided I needed a studio. I found these little studio places out near Harrogate Gardens. A friend of mine was a painter and I convinced him to go halves with me, and we took that studio on. That's just before then was when I got all the bodybuilder work for the moulding company in Thirsk, so I actually had a little bit of income coming in, so I knew I could pay that rent, because it was my share of it was £200 a month, plus electricity usage and all the rest. And then was it 2010, after I'd finished my degree, I got caught drink driving. 4 o'clock in the morning, I made a stupid mistake, I lost my driving licence and I couldn't get out to my studio to work. So I had to look for somewhere else. I decided, I'd been thinking about opening a gallery for years, like most artists do, and I started looking at empty shops and seeing what the rent was like. So I had no idea, what does the shop cost? I haven't got a clue. And there was a little shop which is just down near Rocksteady Music at the end. There's only a tiny little shop, about a quarter of this, but 2 floors. And I thought, I could have a studio upstairs and a little gallery just selling my stuff, and I actually thought my friend Darren would come in with me and he'd do paintings and I'd do sculpture, and we'd just have this little shop. And that place was £75 a week. So, no, it was £70 a week, that one. And I was paying £50 a week to have a studio. So I thought, well, it makes sense to have a place to sell, because it's really difficult. You have a studio, but you're only ever making things. Without an outlet, it's really difficult. So I had all these ceramic statues stacking up all over the place and nowhere to sell them. So I thought, for the extra bit of money, I might as well have a shop and make it work. And I actually fell out with my friend Darren over it. He didn't want to have a gallery, he didn't want to lose the studio though, and he didn't want to lose his studio partner, but I didn't have a choice. He didn't have a car, I didn't have a car, we couldn't get to work, and I'm very sensible about these things. If I can't get to work, then I need to find another job. So I came up, had a look at that shop, I had a look at number 13 where Kirsty was from. Number 13 was brilliant. It was only £5 a week more, but it was about 4 times the size, a bigger basement storage area, little kitchen, a little back room, and my brother was interested in setting up a tattoo parlour, and I thought, this'll work. So I had a look around that place. I was about to put my offer in. I came up to have another look. This place was empty. this is a better spot. It's on the corner. It's all these windows. So I started making inquiries and I had a look around. Saw the basement. I was like, "Yep, I'm interested. Let's get it going." I love it. Yeah. Best job I ever had. The upsides, I'm my own boss. If I want to close early, I close early. Um, I get to do something that most people can't do. You know, I get praise from normal people that come in and see me working on something, and they're amazed at what I'm creating out of nothing, and that always puts a smile on your face. There's a certain self-satisfaction in doing this kind of work. There are a lot of downsides. Don't get me wrong, it is the best job I ever had, but it's the worst paid job I ever had. I never have any money. I work 7 days a week. I don't work 8 hours a day. I generally work 10 hours a day, sometimes 12 hours a day. When I'm setting up an exhibition, even more. It's stressful, balancing so many different artists. We represent over 200 artists in Rapture Gallery. Not all at the same time, not always, but that's an awful lot of administration. It's an awful lot of people to remember. It's an awful lot of emails to send. You know, there is never a day when I have nothing to do. I had a day off on Monday. It was brilliant. First day off I've had in months. I sat at home, played zombies. It was great. Then Tuesday I had so much catching up to do because I had Monday off. You know, I haven't had a holiday in forever. There are things that most people take for granted. If you're off sick, you're going to get paid. If you want book 2 weeks off so you can go away, you're going to get paid. These things don't apply to me. If work is slow, I have to go and find myself more work, which means I have to take time out of doing the things that I have to do to go and find paying work, and that's difficult. Oh, absolutely. Particularly after it's finished. When a piece is finished, I try not to have it sit around too long, because if I sit around too long, I pull it apart so much that I hate it, and then I'd kind of wouldn't want to sell it because I'd no longer be happy with it. But I think you have to be self-critical. If you can't be critical of your own work, other people will be, but you'll find it harder to accept. I get this because I'm critical of people's work when they bring it in, because I have to be honest. When it was difficult when I first started, because I kind of wanted to keep everybody happy and take everything that came through, but then I'd be taking things that were just awful, and I'm not doing them any favours by taking it. Generally I'd be a bit embarrassed to put it out on sale next to great artwork like we're having now. I wouldn't want to put something in that wasn't great, but I want to encourage them, so I will give them constructive feedback. The majority of artists, I'm very lucky actually, the majority of them take it very well. Be brave, persevere. No, don't give up at the first hurdle. It's hard out there. It is hard, but there is work. There is work for artists. There are work for designers. There are work for creative people all over the place. You know, you don't quite realise how much until you start looking for it. Apply for everything. Apply for everything. On the Arts Council, you'll find commissions quite often. More often than not, there'll be things that you think are out of your reach. It doesn't mean you shouldn't apply for it. Apply to get feedback. Apply to get turned down. Don't not do something because you think you're not going to get it. It's always worth the effort, because every time you write a proposal, you get better and better and better, and then it'll come to the point you'll be applying for one that you actually want, and you'll get it, and you're like, oh right, but you wouldn't have got it if you hadn't applied for the first dozen that you got turned down for. So, you know, be brave, take chances on those things. Life's risky. It doesn't mean you shouldn't take risks. You know, I've always taken risks, and sometimes they pay off and sometimes they don't. But I'd still rather be living a risky life than always sitting around and thinking what would have happened if I'd have done that. If you're a creative mind, try and find as many ways as possible to make money out of what you do. Most people focus on one thing. Like, I'm a sculptor, so generally I'm doing sculpture, but I also paint. I also do greetings card designs. I make figurines rather than my really expensive, beautiful, large ceramic pieces. I make little cute things that I can sell for a tenner. When it comes to Halloween, I make
skull tea light holders. When it comes to Christmas, I make baubles and decorations, and I make as many things as I can to try and make money. I never turn down a job. If a job comes through the door and someone says, can you make me this, I say yes. Even if I don't know how to do it, or I don't know what I'm doing, because I can figure it out, I can learn, I can ask advice of other people. Make as many friends as you can. Know as many artists as you can in your life, and don't be afraid to give them work, because the day might come when they give you something. And if we all look out for each other, we'll all be more successful.